I'll finish you first!
Hello spirits, so I have a secret to admit. I'm very much a LEGO fanatic. Despite hitting the ripe age of 19, Hero Factory is something close to my heart. I've remembered most, if not all the characters, and if you were to ask what years each generation of sets came out in, ask another guy, because fucked if I know. Because I never really stuck close to any other LEGO sets other than Ninjago.
Whoa! How'd he do that? Look what color I am! Wait a minute, I'm still black.
Some Star Wars sets, LEGO Dimensions. I know about Nexo Knights. Wow, maybe I wasn't such a LEGO fan after all. Why do I have a few tons of LEGO? And on TikTok, I discovered I was following Nex's voice actor. Because Hero Factory is my favourite LEGO toy line, and it's one of the few shows I vividly remember. The characters, the villains, oh my god, the games! I miss that hero building game. Hero Factory hasn't been heard of since its last release in 2014. And how it ended sucked because it was so desperately bad. And while writing this, I found out the franchise had so much potential. So, without further ado, how LEGO fumbled Hero Factory. Bionicles were infamous being something new in the LEGO world, branching from bricks to Technic figures that didn't have arms, legs and heads that moved two ways. However, while Bionicles for a long time was very popular, the later sets didn't meet the standards for kids and ultimately the IP was discontinued. And so LEGO needed a new brand to bring up that sale price again. LEGO Hero Factory was based off the Bionicle series LEGO was producing. It was in a world full of robots, monsters and much more, with villains and manufactured heroes with their hero cores, all built in a Hero Factory built by its creator Makihiro. Makihiro, who unfortunately never got a figurine, who believed heroes needed to exist against villains. With every LEGO set, there would be a set of episodes to promote the new series. They had a bunch of ads, but it represented the toys more than its world.
As they do battle against the galaxy's most evil monsters and villains.
All in a good day's work, eh?
However, the following episodes are what series of LEGO series were labelled: Trials of Inferno, Core Crisis, The Enemy Within, Von Nebula, Ordeal of Fire, Savage Planet, Breakout, Brain Attack, and Invasion from Below. And somehow, in 4 years of making these episodes and LEGO sets, LEGO managed to fuck up the IP with the final one. Now personally, I rewatched all of this and it's alright. And I like this, how they all separate the characters from each other, who they are, what they can do, and aren't cringe the entire time. Seriously, I tried to rewatch LEGO Chima and I'm sorry, but most of it is just really, really cheap lines.
I'm really late now. We'll finish this later, Sir P.
The stories I want to rather focus on for this part, and unfortunately they felt rushed.
Inferno, be careful. That one's not.
Obviously, when you're doing a toy line, if you make the same things or have small gimmicks for a long time, then it just won't be profitable. People probably already own the same looking figure and aren't likely to buy a second, which is why they all had different sets, different locations, while handling a handful of stories with the villains and much more, since it was around 2 or 3 episodes to flesh out the places. Some didn't need to be overly complicated or long depending on the story. This is the case like Trials of Inferno through to Von Nebula, which focused on the first generation Technic figures while having smaller connected stories, which acted as a string of missions one after the other while developing the characters, their dynamics, introducing villains and overall marketing the toy line. But it's held down when Ordeal of Fire rolls around.
Nice and stealthy. Catch 'em by surprise.
Yeah, stealthy.
Now, I'm biased, I like the look of these sets, but admittedly they were so cheaply outfitted looking back. I own most of the fire dudes and all of their headpieces snapped off because it was just this little thing holding it together. But that's actually not why Ordeal of Fire starts to take a detour, but it's actually because of the amount of episodes it had. Now I'm not sure why, but again from Trials of Inferno to Von Nebula, that was 3 1/4 of these models for the heroes, but Generation 2 was these and got 1 episode before moving on to Savage Planet, which got 2 episodes, and it makes sense. It's one group of villains in comparison to the 6 split up into smaller groups or singles, but Savage Planet immediately delves into new armor before giving light to the other characters who didn't get a chance to show off their armor until that planet, aka Surge and apparently Rocker, leaving one episode to be broadcasted God knows when, because it would leave kids to not realize there's more Hero Factory. I literally cannot remember where I saw these episodes from. And it's the same issue with Brain Attack and Invasion from Below. But sets wise, it's resonated more with Breakout.
Infecticide!
No, my shredding claw!
Infecticide!
Shredding claw!
Infecticide!
Shredding claw!
Which featured a breakout series of Breeze, Bulk, Nex, Thornrax, XT4 and Core Hunter. But the thing is, the episodes didn't actually feature any of them. But actually the remaining characters except for XT4 were all in the Hero Factory Breakout game, because I'd actually forgot that existed. When you bought a set, you would get a hero core that would be placed on the chest pieces, and on the back were codes. Now I may be wrong, but they gave you hero points which would use as currency to upgrade the weapons, and I'm guessing the bigger the upgrade, the longer the wait. But the thing is, they refused to admit that the sets they designed were canon because all of them are still in Generation 2 armor, as far in as Brain Attack. It really felt like these sets came after the episode's productions, even though these characters from the team and are integral to the dynamics, while also picking up and choosing which characters exist or not, because they removed Nex entirely after Savage Planet and Stringer after Breakout.
Listen, guys.
And it's disappointing most of these stories were never explored. I can't remember where I read it, but the creators wanted to do more serious stories, but LEGO opted for good vs evil.
Trogler, I can't allow them to make an independent Quimbly game. It's my IP to sit on and do nothing with.
Which is the opposite of what the creators wanted to do. And there's brief evidence that this is still in their stories with Ordeal of Fire and Savage Planet, as the Fire members are addicted to power and energy, sort of like addicts are to drugs to feel empowered or feeling emotion they want to or don't want to. And Storm is saying they'll get them help. I honestly would have loved to see more of this side of Hero Factory because it reminds me of the villains in the Batman show. They're troubled people who have done villainous acts because of what's happened to them. But since LEGO simplified it, they don't focus a lot on it, unlike their other shows such as Monkey Kid and Ninjago. And it's evident there should have been more because they also made sets for Bulk, Stringer, Surge, and again, Rocker. But they all made a few minute appearances in the opening to Savage Planet, and after that they just turned into animals.
Next slashes into battle like a tiger.
And again, they have a lack of any sort of story behind the planet, other than a tribe once owned it, it's a protected nature reserve, and that the Doctor wants power. Why the Witch Doctor would want Quasicores, other than he had a fascination with it, it just doesn't give him depth. Obviously the starter villains were just villainous against Storm because of the grudge against Von Nebula, who was a coward as both a hero and a villain. But there's not just that, as the ideas weren't executed well or long enough, but some never saw the light of day.
Thank you for the demo, Surge.
Following the events of Breakout, we were introduced to the idea of Black Phantom's plan for a villain factory, identical to Hero Factory, only after he would destroy it. Now obviously he didn't destroy Hero Factory and was instead beaten, but he sent a file to an unknown villain voiced by Tom Kenny. On another note, they have a lot of voice talent working in these episodes. Josh Keaton, Charlie Adler, Henry Winkler, Mark Hamill.
I am the Black Phantom. This is my pet Arachnix.
This would in turn start Brain Attack, only instead of a villain factory, they infected living robot beings. Only, here's the thing, it was clear this idea wasn't going to be taken too far because of multiple factors. It was one episode, the villain in Breakout only had the base element for arms, and then proceeded to look like Black Phantom in Brain Attack. It was just obvious they didn't want to do more with the idea if they hadn't even designed a set enough it looked like a different villain. And speaking of Black Phantom, they introduced the idea of Anti-Quasar, which is why Black Phantom could get outfitted in the chamber in the first place. Quasar is what powers the hero cores. But I'm not even done, because in Brain Attack, it was so clear they designed Surge's outfit to fit against the dragon before they knew it existed. Only for LEGO's infinite wisdom to decide he needed to be mind controlled and instead let Rocker be the hero. again. Have I mentioned how this random rookie, Rocker, took over the main spot and was always the character who always beat the bigger threats? The Witch Doctor, Black Phantom, and then the Dragon. I think they should have given the mind-controlled aspect to Rocker because he was a part of the Hero Factor Recon team. If I could explain when he was appointed it was somewhere between Savage Planet and Breakout, because there is no way someone like that acts like he did in Savage Planet. Though I do get the sentiment with making Surge the one because of the ending. And that's the shows. While the episodes are alright, they have a lot of untapped potential / incomplete stories. It became a cheap cop-out for good vs evil, and eventually Angel Steel with Invasion from Below, you see how far they take that. Invasion from Below is the last installment to Hero Factory, and what's worse is that it's a disappointment in every way imaginable. But before I start talking about it, Invasion from Below was not the final nail in the coffin. According to a lot of people, the sets were just not profitable for LEGO, and popularity from them dwindled down. And I can only assume it was as early as Brain Attack, but I'd honestly want to say it was during Savage Planet, since the intros were just not being animated with the current generation. Invasion from Below was more or less just a downgrade and a last attempt to bring back popularity, which is the overall topic and theme of this video. It's on a similar level to the video I made on Skylanders Imaginators, putting all the nostalgic stops and not putting a lot of effort into the game. Now, if you've seen through clips from the Rise of the Rookies all the way to Brain Attack, the characters were these big Technic figures. That was their gimmick. However, LEGO decided they needed different figures and were set on making the characters small. And to make up for it was the robots that would fight against the villains, aka the Beasts. They were around the same size as normal heroes as previous generations were. But not only that, but they had decided that multiple robots for multiple characters, giving you the same minifigure without any differences. But the thing is that these hero designs were essential in the story. In every installment, they all have parts about them that will give them an edge in a situation they're put in. The heroes at first were given Rota and basic armor. Then they had an upgraded set against energy siphon villains. Then they upgraded to animal abilities to help in the jungle. In Breakout, they were all given specific and varied sets in the locations. Stormer was given a bigger body, Drone's a bike, Ferno was given water resistant armor, Eva was given toxic resistant armor, Surge was given gravity boost, and just so much more with the rest of them. And then Brain Attack had the cores protected with cages, and given them sets of weapons, abilities, and more against the brain attacked animals. Overall, the sets were catered to the characters, and never focused on something that just wasn't the hero. They all provided original looking pieces that, even if they were the same colours, could be told differently apart. But Invasion from Below has the characters in pilot suits with less than half not being humanoid. And they even started out with some random turret machine that lasted, of all, 30 seconds before discovering the target. But the worst part about the episode was everything is animated in a different art style. Human looking eyes, and the voice acting is ugh.
Activation confirmed.
Assembly materials set.
Raka, start constructing my freezer battle machine on the remote builder.
On it.
And it's apparently because there were a lot of production issues. And production really just sounded like Kung Fu Panda 4, honestly. Instead, people who bought these sets were given shells of what the bigger figures could have been. Look at this crap. The one I liked most was Evo XL, and if it had not been a fucking robot, Evo probably would have been another XL character like Ferno, Rocker, and Stormer had been. But when I mean shells, I wasn't talking about just the designs. However, I'm referring to the personalities that are non-existent to who they were. The cocky attitude, scaredy nature, to the smarter instincts were just all the race as just hollow deliveries. Stormer had no sense of his leader voice, but the thing is that these sets is that there were so many. Unlike something like Brain Attack, there were multiple sets. Some characters like Rocker and Savage Planet received a normal and XL version of themselves, but this had the characters / minifigures in multiple robots. And mind you, Evo and Rocker got 3 separate robots, Breeze got 2, and if you had bought one of the Beasts, you just get another minifigure. Unlike with the other sets, you would just get duplicates of some crappy minifigures that had no difference whatsoever. Oh, not different armor, head shapes, limb pieces, different weapons, no. They were all just the same while holding the same weapon or another item. And I haven't even said the best part, because the entire reason there are so many robots is because most of these suits last for a few minutes. I think the only one that survived through to the end was the spider bot. Everything else was destroyed by the beast, melted in acid, fell to its doom, or it crashed.
On the turret machine.
Correction.
You got air support. These new battle machines hold up pretty well.
And then there's the story focused on the beast rising from above. But why were they suddenly there? Because things were getting mined and they found them, which acted as territorial creatures to stop and scare them. But in the end, Breeze had agreed to leave them alone if they called off their attack.
Please, listen to me.
But in a beautiful decision made by some idiot at LEGO, instead of heading off with good terms, they needed one of the creatures to accidentally step on a blaster and then hitting the final vine that proceeded to kill an entire race. And this wasn't a change during production. From what I read, it was around 12 hours before release. And that just shows how far they strayed from the original plans of some serious stories. But the question remains, why did LEGO want to do this instead of doing what they had done for the past couple years? Giving us different designed characters with different weapons and cheap crappy pistols, small bugs no one liked, and machines that were destroyed within minutes.
You got air support.
According to the co-creator of Bionicle and Hero Factory, Kristen Faber apparently said this was a small story that was going to be a bridge to the next real story of Hero Factory, possibly Villain Factory or the Brain Attack, but continued. However, instead of making the final story about the Villain Factory with a mysterious villain, it was cancelled. Obviously, he probably didn't know this was the final installment, but from what I've read up, the viewership and sales probably would have been down, as well as possibly not racking as much money as they possibly could have. So with those numbers in mind, I would have implemented a part of the Villain Factory or continued a sneak peek at Brain Attack with more of those brains. Because risking your possible final chance to bring light to Hero Factory on I think, a non-canonical story/reboot is not it. Hero Factory was not a normal TV show because it was connected to a toy line. Unless one or both were popular like Ninjago, then LEGO would renew it. And that was Invasion from Below. Just like Imaginators, it didn't do anything creative with its runtime. The toys they were promoting weren't nearly as good as any sets that came before, and in the show, were weaker and destroyed than anything else before it. It was a nothing end to a corporate meddled story. Hero Factory, while not amazing, still provided a good few years of great looking sets, stories, style, no matter how cheesy some things were. Revisiting Hero Factory with newer knowledge has definitely put Hero Factory in a dimmer light than it once had, but it's still something I'll remember for years because it had ambition, even if the creators weren't allowed to show their full vision. LEGO Hero Factory was just another victim of corporate meddling in hopes to keep sales up, while ignoring what kids would wanted in the set was not Invasion from Below. If you guys want to watch the episodes, they're linked in the description, but episode 9 isn't in the playlist for some reason, so I have it separately linked. Spirit out.